Give me 1 second, stream. I have no idea where my fucking mouse went. Anyway. What's going on, YouTube? Panzer Elite 39, and today I know I said I was going to take a while from streaming, like a month. I might be cutting that early and coming back streaming, or I wanted. That's just what I wanted to get out of the way. Today I got a video, and it's a Division 2 video, but I'm going to be talking about what happened 23 years ago today. Before we get into the video, I would like to take a minute of silence for the over 3,000 Americans who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. So, let's take that moment. Let's take that minute of silence. And that is a minute. So, get into the video today. 23 years ago today, was a natural tragedy for all of America. September 10th, 2001 would be the last day, or would be the last night that everyone went to bed and had no idea of what was brewing the next day. I was only 3 when September 11th, 2001 happened. September 11th, 2001 started off like any other morning would. People wake up to their family, basically give them hugs, hanging out with them for a bit. Either they were working or they weren't. The ones who were working were getting ready for work, and people were already arriving at the Twin Towers. And the airports were busy as always. And 2001, on September 11th, before 9/11, there wasn't really airport security checks. They weren't as strict as they are now because of it. I would say around 8, I think, in the morning. On September 11th, 4 terrorists had basically hijacked. Actually, not 4. 19 terrorists had hijacked the 4 planes. I believe 2 of them were American, and I think 2 were United. I know United Flight 93 for a fact, which is one that crashed outside Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And this attack was the successful attack on the Twin Towers. There was one that no one really knows because 9/11 foreshadowed this attack that I'm about to describe. Back in the 90s, the Twin Towers were attempted to be brought down by car bombs in the parking garage.
Copy that.
Smart. Sounds like they repurposed
the
vault to secure their weapons.
The explosives went off.
That's where you need to go.
Towers never fell. They swayed a bit, but never fell. The targets of these 4 hijackers on September 11th, 2001 was the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and United Flight 93. Its target was either Capitol Building or White House. We don't know what that plane's target was because the passengers heroically took their own life fighting for control of the plane after they learned about the Twin Towers and Pentagon. The amount of people that died on September 11th, people claim it was almost 3,000. It was 3,408. 8 EMTs or paramedics, 60 police officers, 343 firefighters, and 2,997 civilians is how many people had died. All totaled up together, that makes 3,408 Americans plus hijackers who died.
You're giving the orders now?
After 9/11, everyone had made a pledge to never forget. Sadly, a lot of people have forgotten about 9/11. Either they forgot about 9/11 or never really taught it. When I was in high school, and every other year since, we had to watch the 9/11 tapes. And if you guys were around to watch what had happened on 9/11 at the Twin Towers, you'll know exactly how gruesome it was for people trapped above the building. Or not the building, trapped above the flames. They had 2 choices because they knew rescue was impossible. be burned alive or jump 87 stories or higher down to their death. Most took the 87 stories or higher down to their death. Some stayed and were burned to death. Once the whole world found out about 9/11, especially the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. Oh. Anyway, especially the Queen of England. The day of 9/11, the Queen of England had broken a 600-year tradition. She had ordered the Royal Guard to play the American National Anthem all across Buckingham Palace and had halted traffic in England until the National Anthem of America was done. The entire world sat in shock as America was attacked and ultimately brought to its knees because of these attacks. In China, a bunch of Chinese people went to the American embassy to pay their respects. In Poland, firefighters had sounded their sirens to support the Americans of what was going on. Bangladesh, everyone went to the mosque and started praying. Everyone stood with America on the day of 9/11. And China, they may be our enemy. But the day of 9/11, they had basically stood with America and paid respect of what was going on.
Might shed some light on what the True Sons have been doing here.
Immediately the day after 9/11 was when America declared war on terror. And the war on terror would last, I think, a little over 20 years. To be exact, like 23 years. That's when we were also on the hunt for Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks and the leader of Al-Qaeda, who was the organization behind the attacks of 9/11. American Airlines Flight 11 had crashed into North Tower at 8:46 in the morning. "17 minutes later, at 9:03 in the morning, the South Tower was hit by United Airlines Flight 175. Within 1 hour of both towers being hit, they both collapsed. and it was an hour and 41 minutes exactly
That
of
intel
when
you
both
picked up
towers
was
had
an
collapsed.
analysis of our defenses at the White House. The True Sons identified several vulnerable areas in our perimeter. We can use this info to shore up our defenses. Good
While
work,
the
Agent.
attacks on the Twin Towers was going on, United Airlines Flight 93 was the one going straight to either the Capitol building or the White House. The passengers on that plane, knowing what was going on after the attacks on the Pentagon and Twin Towers, with everything that they had, fought against the terrorists and ultimately gave their life to make sure that their plane did not reach its intended target. Everyone on United Flight 93 knew they were going to die. And they had decided to rather be by themselves taking over a plane than having a plane crash into a building.
Hostile control point nearby.
When both of the Twin Towers had collapsed, it brought a destruction of 5 remaining structures in the World Trade Center complex and damaged and or destroyed multiple nearby buildings. American Airlines Flight 77, I can't remember where that plane was flying to, but it diverted course from wherever it was flying to and immediately rerouted course to DC. At 9:37 in the morning, American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Twin Towers. The plane that crashed outside Shanksville, United Airlines Flight 93. They had crashed a plane near Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m. The FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, at 9:45 in the morning, 59 minutes following the attacks. Following the first impact, had ordered an indefinite ground stop for all air traffic in the U.S. airspace. After the indefinite ground stop for all U.S. traffic, they had sent up the military fighters for any plane that did not respond to commands to shoot down, for fear of that plane also being hijacked. Only 4 planes were hijacked, but the FAA had feared, as well as the military, that multiple planes after the initial 4 were hijacked to be under command and didn't know which planes were also in fear of being hijacked. After 9/11 is when airports started seeing more high security than anywhere else. After the Twin Towers had hit, and the thing is, people criticize
Hostile control point identified.
George Bush, George H.W. Bush, for not doing anything about it. He was at a school in Florida, and at an elementary school, watching a class, basically read a book, the teacher reading a book to a class, and pretty much watching the classroom and everything. At one point, one of the advisors that the president was carrying, or not carrying, but after the president was with, had came up to the president and whispered something in his ear. And it was immediately after the second plane had hit the second tower. And those words were, "An airplane has hit the South Tower." And the look on his face that I've seen from tapes, he knew that at that point, America was under attack. The only aircraft allowed in the air for 3 days in America was military planes, and that was it. So, Air Force, Marines, Army, Air Force One, which is part of the Air Force. During the attacks, after President George H.W. Bush had given his speech after he had given his speech at the school, had immediately boarded Air Force One and wanted to go back to DC against the orders of his staff. They then had flown over to somewhere, I believe Oklahoma or Kansas. Way there, flew to another location, and then ultimately back to Andrews Air Force Base. With the attacks going on, the Air Force had also sent up the Doomsday plane, which was going to be sent up anyways for training purposes, because the Air Force in the Great Plains area was hosting war games. When some of the aircraft had gotten onto the taxiway manned by their crew, they had received the orders not to go airborne and to scrub the mission. Once they found out what was going on, they knew that at that point that they were immediately get deployed somewhere. And hence most crews, including bomber crews, had packed up some of their personal gear, as well as the gear that they were issued. It was ready to head out to wherever they were being deployed to. Most would end up in Iraq. Some would be going to Afghanistan. After the collapse of the towers, years later, people were still dying from exposure to the rubble and what was in that rubble. What was in that rubble? My best guess is probably asbestos, or I can't remember how you say it. I know it. They use it in the 50s and 60s in housing and walls, and it was deadly. My best guess was that. And fire stations in New York at their firehouses. I was watching an interview with one of the people that had responded to the Twin Towers in New York. He lost most of his crew. And he came, after everything, they came back to their house. And he couldn't look at the lockers because of the brothers that he had lost. On 9/11, I was 3 years old. I was getting ready for speech class. My mom had gotten the call from one of her friends saying to turn on the news and that the world's on fire and coming to an end. Some of you guys were probably not even born yet, or if you guys were born way before 2001, you guys were probably getting ready for work or getting ready for school or whatever the case may be. Like I said, I was getting ready for speech class because at the time I was unable to pronounce my R's. Fire truck never came out fire truck. I had a real hard time pronouncing R's. So and like I was in school with a couple of my friends, and we were all talking about September 11th because it was the day that it was at that day when we were in school and we were going to be watching all day in each class the 9/11 tapes, which, my personal opinion, I don't think school should be showing. Because I remember 9/11 to never forget. But the school I went to, one of my teachers had gone to New York a few days before 9/11, and she was stuck there during the attacks, but she was not in the immediate vicinity of it. She still relives that day in her head. And I believe there are other ways of remembering the people who lost their lives on 9/11. I don't think replaying those tapes and seeing people from like A7 stories to the 101st floor jump out of a building and fall down to their death, I don't think that's a way to remember those people. And you guys could say that, oh, he's being biased or whatever. That's my honest opinion. I'll get to it in a minute. There are other ways of honoring those people who died in 9/11 and the years after. Now, the reason why I say there are other reasons, there are other ways, is one of them, when I was in a U.S. government class in high school. We had a debate about the 9/11 tapes. And if they should be shown in class or not. The teacher asked, who believes we should still show the 9/11 tapes? Raise your hand. And the teacher has separated us so we can have a debate about it. Teacher had called on a student on the guy who, or on, not student, or not guy, on a female who was on the side with the people who should. And asked me why we shouldn't. And I had told him, I feel like we shouldn't because of the people who had survived 9/11. They already have to relive with it for the rest of their lives. I don't think that they should be seeing. I don't think they should be seeing what they had to relive on the TV not every day, but like every year of what they had lived through. And I got asked, so you don't want us to remember our history about it? And I said, I do, but there are other ways to do it. Showing on TV year in or every year, day in, day out, for 3 days is not the way to do it. And I had gotten asked why, and I had told him, I was like, what? Let's say one of your family members survived 9/11. They had been at the 9/11, like they had been there on 9/11 in either the Twin Towers or the Pentagon. And they turn on TV. I asked, do you think they should be there to watch what they had lived through? To basically relive and have flashback and PTSD of what they had to endure. And I got told well, they can have the option not to watch TV. And I told them, I had said, I agree with that, but I don't think they should play it because on at least when I was growing up, on every channel, there was always the 9/11 tapes playing. When I was growing up, there were on every channel the videos of 9/11 and what happened that day playing. Me personally, I don't think it should be played like that. Is there a better way? Most definitely. Just not the way that they do it every year. And here's the thing, even though I was 3 when 9/11 happened, I didn't forget. It's
System reactivated.
following the aftermath of 9/11, with the towers that were after the towers had collapsed. They had sent in cadaver dogs to look for survivors. And after a certain point, the dogs started becoming depressed because they couldn't find any live people. So the first responders that were there with the cadaver dogs looking for survivors had buried themselves just so the dogs could be happy that they had found at least someone alive. And most of the cadaver dogs, I'm pretty sure to this day, if they're not already deceased. I don't say that in a mean way. But with all that rubble and everything, not very many of the animals are still alive. The cadaver dogs, some of them are still alive. I'm pretty sure are still depressed because they couldn't find any live people the day of 9/11 and the days after the towers had collapsed. Every year I do a 9/11 stream, basically to commemorate the 3,408 people who had tragically lost their lives. And there's some documentaries that I watch from time to time about the 9/11 tapes. One of them being the Miracle of Stairwell B. Which, if you guys don't know, also hey third viewer. If you guys don't know what the Miracle of Stairwell B is, it's one of the stairwells, and it's a stairwell in one of the towers. I can't remember if it was north or south. But it was about the stairwell in one of the towers. And it had more concrete than some of the other stairwell and the towers. Which was where a lot of survivors were found. Was in Stairwell B. And there's also a movie. I know there's multiple movies about it and multiple shows and documentaries, but there's one that I watch that has Nicolas Cage in it. It's World Trade Center with Nicolas Cage. I can't remember who the other guy was, but it's about two Port Authority officers who are out on patrol one day on September 11th, 2001, and they get called back to quarters. They head over, and on the news they see the 9/11 attacks. What's up? What's up, team player Nick? How's it going? And in the movie World Trade Center, all the Port Authority people who were out on patrol got called out, head back to their respective precincts and all that to see what's going on, and that's when they see either one or both towers engulfed in flames. They then get their names called up, head up to the towers on a bus, and they're a couple blocks away. They get there, and they see utter chaos. They see people bruised and bleeding from the survivors who had survived the initial attacks. There's paper flying everywhere.
Access key detected.
There's a lot that happened in that movie. And the guy who plays McLaughlin, I think that's his name. The guy, the oldest Port Authority officer, that's in the show, everyone looks up to him because he pretty much had been there for when the attacks on the Twin Towers in the 90s happened. And back in the 90s when the FBI had arrested the people who were responsible for attempting to bring down the Twin Towers, they flew by the towers, and one of the FBI agents had looked at the guy, at one of the terrorist members, and said, why don't you look at that, it's still standing. And one of the people who had attempted to blow up the tower has said they're not standing for very long. And everyone thought that he was joking. And I've seen a video of how the towers were constructed, so I understand how they collapsed. And they were designed to withstand a plane hit from a smaller passenger airline. I can't remember what kind they said it was supposed to uphold. I think they said like a 737, I think. But they got hit, the towers had gotten hit with, I believe, a 757.
Hostiles guarding location nearby.
And but yeah, it shows how the tower was constructed, what they were supposed to withhold, the blast and everything. It was in my opinion, I thought it was a good video. The day of the attacks, once they happened, it changed the New York skyline forever. And if you've seen pictures of New York before 9/11 and after 9/11, you can see exactly how much of the skyline has changed. And it's changed actually a lot, not gonna lie.
Incoming hostiles detected.
And it's after ringing about for a bit, before 9/11, Pearl Harbor was the deadliest attack. But Pearl Harbor was because the Japanese thought they can quickly cripple the Pacific Fleet.
Key detected.
And everyone's up for their own speculation of what had caused the Twin Tower, or what caused the attacks on the Twin Towers, Pentagon, and the unknown target of United Flight 93. People say it was because we had our Navy in the Black Sea. I don't believe that to be true at all, because they had attacked us during these 90s and caused the parking structure to collapse, but not the actual building. As of what I think the causes attacks were, I'm not 100% sure. To be honest, I don't know. The attacks on the Twin Towers back in the 90s, I don't know what led to that attack. I can safely assure you that during the War on Terror, though, the government was trying to figure out who was the mastermind behind it, where they were, and all that. They had found out the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks to be Osama bin Laden, and he was hiding out, I believe, somewhere in Pakistan. 2011, Barack Obama ordered SEAL Team 6 to go into where Osama bin Laden was hiding and take him out. And on 2011, 10 years after the attack on the Twin Towers, the person responsible for the attack that cost over 3,000 American lives have been finally brought to justice. After he was killed. It was his son that was killed first by SEAL Team 6, then it was the mastermind himself. And here's the thing.
Hostile broadcast detected.
Give me a second. Anyway, but yeah, my heart, my condolences go out to the family members of the family of 9/11, whether they still be alive or passed away during the attacks. My heart and my condolences go out to them. And we, like I said, we all pick fun of the different oh, excuse me. We all pick fun of the British and the French. But on 9/11, they pulled through and helped us. like I said, the Queen had ordered a 600-year tradition to be broken just for the American National Anthem to be played, as well as traffic to be halted until the American National Anthem was done. And I don't remember what all the other countries had done for the tax. But like I said, England their Queen had ordered the Royal Guard to play the American National Anthem and hold all traffic until those were done.
Detecting additional hostile contacts.
Like I said, the Chinese at the time they had gone to,
Access key detected.
like, their people had gone to the American embassy and lit the lanterns. To show their respect. Bangladesh, their people had gone to the mosque to pray for America. I believe on that day of 9/11 was when the whole world put aside their differences and helped America out. People weren't at each other's throat, people weren't going at one another. I believe it was January the day when everyone came together and had pretty much helped each other out. Whether it be directly or indirectly.
Incoming hostiles detected.
But yeah. It's, like I said, this is a thing that I do every year to commemorate the attack on America and how everyone came together to show their support. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.